Welcome to Restaurant Catering Smarts, your go-to podcast for restaurateurs looking to better operate and grow their catering profit centers. With every episode, you can count on expert advice, innovative strategies, and tasty tips straight from industry leaders. Our purpose is to help your business thrive. So, let's dig in to another juicy episode.
Hello again. I am Michael Attias, your host of Restaurant Catering Smarts, and today's guest is George Westberry, Director of Marketing Initiatives at Red Hot and Blue Barbecue with a strong background in restaurant marketing and brand growth. George has been instrumental in shaping strategies that drive both dine-in and off-premise success for the Red Hot and Blue brand. Crafting campaigns that resonate with guests to supporting initiatives that expand catering and community, George combines creative vision with practical execution. He brings a fresh perspective on how marketing can fuel catering sales and brand awareness, and we're excited to have him on the show today. But before we get started, let's take a minute to recognize our sponsor, Caters Catering Software. They help restaurants turn their catering chaos into calm. Discover why restaurants trust CatersN to save them time and increase sales. Go to catersn.com and sign up for a walkthrough of the software. Now let's dive into this episode of Restaurant Catering Smarts. Welcome, George. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for inviting me to be on the show.
Man, thanks for being here. I like to get everyone started with a little icebreaker question, get to know maybe something about you nobody thought about, including yourself. Give me a number between 1 and 300.
123.
Oh, that's interesting. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Oh, my goodness. I think it would have to be kindness. Getting complimented for being kind always goes a long way.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. No, you can never be too kind. You know, a thing that I've gotten into in the last year is I'd like to tell people how much I appreciate them. You know, when you go out and someone's pouring you a cup of coffee, they're waiting on you, they do something, hey, I appreciate you, because I think a lot of people just take people who serve them for granted. And I feel very fortunate. I used to wait tables and I used to bus tables and wash dishes, that I am appreciative that they're doing it and I don't have to go take care of it myself. So I'm very appreciative of anybody who works hard to help me out.
Our industry is a great one to give out thanks to, because like you said, mine, like yours, my past is back of house. I was in fine dining and worked as a chef for a number of years. So, you know, getting a little attaboy every now and then, or, hey, thanks for being here and serving me and my family, you know, always goes a long way. So,
yeah, I was at a conference for one of our large clients, and the coffee shop opens like at, I don't know what time it was. In the afternoon, they reopened after 4:00. And the woman had such a great attitude, like just infectious. Like she wanted to be there. She wanted to serve. I gave her like a $20 tip. She almost started crying. I'm like, you know, it's just so nice to see somebody who wants to take care of you and wants to be there, right? You know, you go through some drive-thrus and it's like, oh, you need to answer this question. Why don't you just call it what it is? You want to leave us a tip or not? Like answer a question, and then, you know, they can't even think to give you napkins to go with your order. So
right.
Anyway, going off on a little diatribe, how long, we're going to get into your background in a second, but how long have you been with Red Hot and Blues?
So I believe I just crossed over year 13 with the brand. And in those years, I've had many different roles. And I assume we can hit some of that on my background, but yeah, year 13 with one brand. I've found a home here.
It's your bar mitzvah year. Mazel tov.
Exactly. Mazel tov.
So, question, you know that my background's with Corky's, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you know, and if you know it, you can tell the whole story, or I can tell my story. Do you know the genesis of Red Hot and Blues, where it originated from?
So I know the backstory. I don't go back to the beginning of the company. Obviously, we're older than that. But I do know the general lay of the land. But I'm already interested in what you're saying, so I want to hear more.
So I was a server at Corky's in college. And Don Peltz, the founder of Corky's, was asked to license his know-how, like how to cook barbecue, how to make barbecue sauce, the recipes, by Congressman Don Sundquist, was a Tennessee congressman. Lee Atwater, I think, was a lobbyist, also played blues. I don't know if he played bass or guitar. I think those two guys raised some money. They put together a limited partnership. And there was a guy, I don't remember his name, from Australia, who was sort of the first managing partner.
Uh-huh.
And I remember the guy coming down for like a month and working, and I met him, and I was just a server, so I wasn't really super involved, but I knew of all the backstory. And they opened up and they were wildly successful because, it's Memphis barbecue in DC, and, the whole history. And then I think what ended up happening a year or two later, I think the guy was from Australia. I think he embezzled some money from the company, and and then after that they grew from there. I don't know if they sold out and a bunch of other stuff, but it's pretty neat. Like if you look at the barbecue chains in this country,
Uh-huh.
it's like 7 degrees of real bacon, not Kevin Bacon. Like
I like it. Yeah.
Sonny's, Bono's, Fat Boys, they all come from the same lineage. And if you look at Corky's, it's Corky's came from Public Eye, Corky's, Sticky Fingers, Red Hot and Blue. They're all, they all have that same lineage. It's
Yep.
pretty interesting.
It's a small world in the barbecue sector of America, and that's a really cool story. I didn't know all of the overlap there. But yeah, through the years, I mean, a lot of the folks that were founding members, founding partners of this company, while many of them, of course, have moved on. I think a couple have passed away, namely Sonny, our first pitmaster. Who
Yeah.
there are great stories about, and I had the privilege of knowing Sonny and working with him for a while. And just real quick, one of the best stories I think ever was when Red Hot and Blue was getting started. They were having issues; they couldn't smoke on site for whatever reason. So Sonny pulled the smoker behind his car around the Beltway in DC,
Yeah.
and would just bring people in. Lots of cool stories in the brand through the years like that. So.
Yeah, every brand has some cool stories. And then, eventually you get big and stodgy, and all the cool shit that you could get away with when it was small, you can't do anymore because you got HR legal and, a bunch of party poopers.
Yep.
But, that's a whole nother situation. So, how did you get in the barbecue business? You mentioned that, did you start off in high school in the restaurant business? Was it after college? And then had you, if you go from fine dining to barbecue, it's almost sacrilegious, right?
Yeah, it was an interesting transition for me. My roots with restaurant business go back to, like you mentioned, right after high school. And I did fine dining for a number of years. One of the fine dining places that I worked for in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, he had a great concept. He had a great place. We became the special occasion, which, a lot of fine dining, small mom and pop fine dining goes through.
Right.
And he just couldn't make it. He was in like year 5, maybe 6, and went under. One of the people I worked with at that place worked for Red Hot and Blue on the catering sales team. So when I first come to work with Red Hot and Blue, I was part-time doing catering sales. And I was actually touring the other time that I wasn't with Red Hot and Blue with my band at that point. And there was an overlap
cool.
with the music, the food, the barbecue. So yeah, it was an interesting.
I'm going to guess you're a bass player.
You nailed it. Yep.
I'm picking up bass player vibes. You're a little too laid back to be a lead singer.
Yeah.
I'm not picking up drummer energy, just bass player, just cool and chill.
Chill vibe and go with the flow. Exactly. So that's
cool.
Usually the bass player. If you can back a trailer, get along with people and sing a little backup vocals as well, you can usually stay busy as a bass player. So, back to your question though. Yeah, I'd worked in fine dining, different settings throughout the years. Occasionally I would hop out of the restaurant industry and into something sales, just a little more money there usually, but I'm a creative person by nature. So this was kind of a good overlap for me with the opportunity to work with a brand that was so heavily steeped in blues and barbecue. It just felt like a good place to put roots for a while.
That's cool. So let's talk about when you first started selling catering part-time. How many hours a week were you working?
Probably 25-ish hours at max. Part of a team, Yeah.
And is your catering sales playbook at Red Hot and Blue the same now as when you started?
Oh no, yeah, we've definitely adopted things through the years and over the years. And yeah, I mentioned I've had a few roles. I was director of off premise for a while for Red Hot and Blue, and then director of strategic initiatives. And when I had that role, we really revamped and what we feel like improved a lot of our SOPs, the way that we do things, while still honoring, that the brand has been around since 1987. So yeah, obviously there's some things that were going right. So it was kind of a pruning, if you will, of the things that needed to be improved upon, and trying to stay true to the things that were working.
So, what I see out there a lot is either brands put no effort into sales or marketing,
Mhm.
or they have what I call an order taker, somebody who takes calls, but they're not really trying to beat the bushes to find business,
Uh-huh.
right? Or they're relying on Easy Cater, and there's false sense of, oh, we have $1 million a year coming in from Easy Cater, but by the time you you split the pie, there's nothing left but crumbs, right?
Right?
So when you started, working 20, 25 hours a week, why don't you give everybody just a very high level, like what a day in the life, a week in the life, like what are the things you were doing to build catering sales at Red Hot and Blues then?
Yes, that's a great question. So the team that I worked with in the early days of Red Hot and Blue, we were inbound. So everything that we were capturing was coming in from marketing efforts, following up on leads, and really mining our own database for, repeat customers, recurring customers, and building that relationship. To your point, there's that only goes so far when you have a team that is inbound, and it takes a collaborative effort with the operators that are on the ground, the managers, and getting them involved and getting them really bought into the idea of how valuable catering is as part of their annual income, and how it can really move the needle. I think is top priority, having that person at each location that understands the value of catering.
Yeah, for sure. And, obviously barbecue has an advantage that it travels well.
Uh-huh.
And unlike some concepts, you can do full service events, right? So I'm sure you've done some huge events over the years where, if you're a sandwich shop, maybe you get 1,000 box lunches, but generally speaking, you don't have the same amount of opportunities as going and doing these big barbecue events.
Yeah, and you nailed it. And it is a combination of different, types of events that have built our catering program. Those full service events, again, really do move the needle. Those Some of the larger ones can be, worth going after every year and executing well so that you get them back year over year.
Yeah, for sure. So going back to the early days, it was inbound.
Uh-huh.
You probably did some customer nurturing. What types of things, like what database were you using back in the day to even
Yeah.
keep up with customers?
So it was an antiquated system. I believe they were a company called Synergy, and they rebranded a couple of times. They had the nuts and bolts of what could have been a great platform. We saw a lot of opportunities, missed opportunities, because of really just deficits in their understanding of what the needs of a company who is aggressively growing catering sales needed.
Why do you think a lot of these and well, let me go back to the first point and then we'll get to the second. So are h- how are you like what are you identifying within the customer list? Like what are some of the key out, even though it's not outbound, but we'll just say customer retouches that you were doing back then, probably in your downtime when it wasn't super busy, right? What things were you focused on?
Yeah, so obviously how frequently they're ordering, what are they spending, are they buying for themselves? That was a really key component early on to understand, was when you're limited by software of not really understanding your customer database, trying to understand, is that person buying for their company, or are they buying meals for other people? And this is where you start to open the door to things like pharmaceutical reps and repeat business, where you've now got this customer who not only is going to order food for their company, they're going to be a brand ambassador and say, hey, there's this really great place. Here's their menu. I'd like to include them on some of our upcoming meetings.
Yeah, for sure. And then you've got the individual versus the corporate buyer, right? So you decide, your kid's turning 16, you're having a sweet 16 party for your daughter, and you need something for a pool party. Well, that's sort of a one and done. Now, still need to keep them on your email list, because that person could be on a committee at church or on a picnic committee at work. They definitely might not be a repeat buyer, but they could be a repeat influencer. So, but it's a totally different, you know.
Yeah, the direct to consumer versus business to business, a little bit different approach there. But to your point, thinking a little outside the box, graduations were something that we did a lot of in the early days, especially. And you'd be surprised, a lot of folks have more than one child. So you do a good job on a graduation, it can become recurring, and with to a limited degree. Most people don't have 5 or 6
So,
children, but
did you do anything outbound at some point to get these graduation parties?
So it always has been a collaborative effort between the inbound team and the outbound. So the answer to that question is yes. The inbound team didn't directly do it, but we would put forth initiatives to the stores, the managers, the catering managers on site. Hey, let's go visit these places. Let's
So let's talk about graduation parties. Like, did you buy a list of parents of high school seniors? Did you go to the schools and network with the guidance counselors? Let's roll up our sleeves. It's somebody who wants to be a little more aggressive in selling, and here's a niche that I could go after, and it's what I call an evergreen niche. Like every year there's a batch of kids graduating high school, so you have that advantage.
Mhm.
Did you do anything super targeted, or walk me through that?
Yeah, so we found that there's value in partnership, and I think that's a true statement in life in general and in business. And doing give backs and getting involved with not only the PTA, PTO, things like your band booster clubs, and doing things where you're really making your brand top of mind with not only the representatives of that particular organization, but the students and parents, by saying, hey, it's Millbrook Middle School spirit night, bring everyone in. So those type of things, that was one way that we were able to do that without having to buy a list of guests, of just getting
Were you able to build a list from those people who came in, or?
to a degree, yeah. I mean, we've seen success through the years of that, and I think that the band boosters would be one that comes to mind, that always brings a good amount of additional business with them, besides the actual catered event that we do. You see a lot of
Right.
residuals from that sort of thing.
Very interesting. So, my background is, even though I've been in the restaurant business, I probably enjoyed the catering sales and marketing and the niche marketing aspect. It's like trying to solve a puzzle, right? Like, where do I find these customers and how do I get them in my fold? And, you've been on our software for a while. So we're about to launch a really high-end CRM coming out soon. And then the next version will be a landing page generator with QR codes. So the vision is let's take this high school, right?
Uh-huh,
You know, Going and supporting the band boosters is indirect, because I've got to get them involved, either to bring people in or we make a donation.
uh-huh.
And you hope the people connect the dots between, oh, I had Red Hot and Blues at this event, and let's use them for a kid's graduation party, right? So what we're proposing is teaching people how to go to events and do lead gen with the QR code. So for instance, you go to the guidance counselor at these schools in your market. So, you have a store in wherever, and you say, hey, there's 5 high schools that are within striking distance.
Uh-huh.
You're going to be throwing some kind of open house for colleges for the kids and their parents, probably a financial aid. Most parents go to financial aid open house, and you say, hey, we want to be a supporter. We're going to bring out tea and lemonade and cookies and brownies. let us just set up and put out some menus. And then you got a sign that says register to win a free graduation party for your child, $250 value, scan QR code. Well, it's a landing page. They put in their name, how old, who's your kid's name, how old are, when's they're graduating, how many people you thinking about having for your graduation party, whatever. Well, now you've built a database of all these parents, and 3 months before graduation, you use the CRM and say, hey, I want to pull up a list of everybody who has filled out this form in this high school, and you're going to pick one winner. Everybody else wins second prize. Hey, congratulations, George. You entered this for your kid. You didn't win first prize. You won second prize. First prize went to so-and-so, but you won second prize, which is free dessert. And so now you have a very clear-cut way. And whether it's a bridal show or people walking in your restaurant, it's sort of taking technology and a database and mixing the two. So I'm super pumped about that, because I think for the people that have sales teams, it's going to be a definitive lead source, and not just saying, hey, I'm going to buy a list of parents of high school seniors and hope that it's a good list and it's a clean list and I'm getting hold of the right people and they're going to pay attention.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And within, a platform like Caterzen, where you can segment and filter down by industry type, I could see huge value in that, because understanding when buyers are looking for catering and how to get to just those people at the right time, I think is an important factor as well. Knowing when it's time for someone to, there's always a good time for catering and barbecue, but buyers go in patterns, and looking for those things, I think is key.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's the advantage you have with catering sales versus dining room sales, right? It's very difficult to say, hey, I want you to come eat dinner today or lunch, because there's just so many variables, right? But if you can identify these catering opportunities, whether it's Black Friday, holiday parties, company picnics, safety luncheons, there's a conference coming to town. We did a lot of sports banquets. Are you familiar with Ducks Unlimited?
No, I'm not.
So Ducks Unlimited is for duck hunters. They raise money, they have chapters, and it goes to conserve land for the ducks.
Okay.
So it's like, I guess they're preserving what they're going to kill, but they eat what they kill. And I mean, it's a conservation, and they do a lot of good things, and they like to get together and eat and drink and give away shotguns and fancy shit for hunters. And we became friends with the guy who was like he was like the chapter liaison for Tennessee. So he had all these Tennessee chapters, brought him in, knew him from somebody, and he turned me on to all these chapters. So we would go to Pulaski, Tennessee, hour and a half from Nashville. If you got 150 people who want to order ribs and pork and, the whole shebang, I'm driving an hour and a half, right? Why wouldn't I? So we did a lot of business with the Ducks Unlimited chapters in Middle Tennessee. So there's all these little niches that you sort of back into. And that's the advantage you have if you're willing to be proactive and not just, hey, the phone's ringing, people know who we are and hopefully they'll come to us.
Exactly. Yeah. Looking for those type of opportunities, thinking outside the box, and building the engine so that the engine works to the end goal. And I think, like you just mentioned, being able to use tools to organize that data is key. And that's kind of where we were in the conversation, was that early on, we did have a platform, but we were still really in the dark ages. If you wanted to order catering, you had to pick up a phone and or, believe it or not, fax. And, we turned that corner in 2017, 18 of switching on online ordering. And then, of course, when we, rolled out Caterzen, it really opened the doors, because now we had our own branded online ordering. And like you said, not giving away a piece of the pie where there's just crumbs left. So,
yeah, exactly. So let's talk about, okay, your early days, you're doing inbound, you're doing a little cross promotion with the teams in the store and a little bit of proactive, but within your list. When did it transition to, we're going to go out in the community and hustle up business? And what did that playbook look like?
Yeah, so this has always been something with Red Hot and Blue that with having the brand across the country at different points, would live with the catering manager, and we would help them with initiatives. One thing that we found that has been impactful is like you target offices, you go in, you take an offer. Let's say it's $10 off, and you've got this nice little promo that is channel specific. Maybe it's dine in, maybe it's, delivery. And it during that process, you're giving them something, and at the same time doing catering awareness. Yeah, QR code.
Right.
So yeah, getting outside, that's been something that through the years we've started doing more of. Getting out in the community, targeting businesses, and trying to get them to order throughout different sales channels. And I think for some guests, it's a it's a trust factor. If I'm going to trust you to feed my team, I need to know that your food is good. I need to know that your packaging is, at very least adequate. And really seeing a friendly face in the restaurant or a smile, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
goes a long way. The hospitality is a piece of that.
Yeah. And especially when you're dealing with catering, there's this I'm trusting you to not embarrass me, right? So you
Right.
need to show up on time and all that stuff. So, like right now in your stores or your markets, are the catering salespeople full time?
Yeah, so each store has a manager that will own the catering piece. I'll use our Annapolis location as an example. They have a dedicated catering manager and team who is full time, and that's what they're focused on. Throughout different locations in the brand, it will vary a little bit, but it's usually someone that is at least at a manager level and understands the importance of that relationship. Catering is such a bigger marketing piece from the lens of, you are selling an item one time. You're going to be in front of potentially 100 people. If you do a great job, those 100 people may tell a couple of other folks, hey, you did great. So you've got your marketing hat on and it's working for you. If you botch it, those 100 people are going to tell 10 other people that you botched it. So to the point was that yes, that there's a dedicated person that not only is in each community, but that's going out and meeting folks and talking about the brand, giving out a freebie, taking samples, and trying to develop that relationship outside of four walls. You can put all of the stuff in the restaurant you want, saying we cater, but that's really, I think, where the rubber hits the road is when you start meeting, talking, and developing.
For sure. Now, are these people, is their job to spend 10 hours a week out
Uh-huh.
outside the four walls, 20 hours a week? Do they have like a quota? We want you to knock on 20 doors. How does that look?
Yeah, so I actually have done some of this for the brand through the years as well, and we try to tailor it to what the needs of each location is. So, what fits at one may not be perfect for everyone. But yeah, to your point, let's get out, let's talk to at least 20 people this week. And let's make sure that we're going and taking so many of these offers, and then we can kind of measure the return and connect the dots. Did these folks redeem them? Did we see that name of that business pop up on a big catering the next week or 2 months down the road? Um,
Are you adding them a database to drip market them?
yes, so we do have that mailing list, and with Caters In, it's a great way to do it as well. Once they order, they're already in if they opt in, and then keeping an external list along with that so that you can compare who's responding, who's interested, and who's kind of lead in terms of warm, hot, cold. You can
Right.
place them in the correct folder.
Are there any talking about marketing catering versus sales and looking back on your career, what are some really cool, creative, out of the box things that you can share with the listeners?
Yeah, so one of the big things is just it seems so simple, but like with barbecue, obviously you're using your senses. So when our folks go out, they're going to carry a branded bag so that folks see them. And when they walk in the door, they're going to smell like barbecue. And it looks like when you're walking in the door, you're bringing barbecue. I have something for you. They're excited. And even though it may be an offer at that point, you've gotten them a step closer. And we've actually gotten some sales from the factor of, hey, that was cute. You walked in, you left the restaurant, obviously. You're going to smell like Q. If you're doing real Q, there's nowhere you're going to
Yeah.
go. You're not going to smell like wood smoke. And they're excited when you walk in, and it's a moment to make them, have an interaction with you and laugh and say, hey, we got you a step closer. You can smell the Q
You
here
know,
to get it.
it's funny. I don't think I have it anymore, but you sparked an idea you might want to consider. So you're going in there with like the hot bags.
Well, they're like a branded to-go bag that shows the logo and everything, but that smells like our barbecue too. Yeah.
Yeah, something to, do y'all have like those insulated bags
Mhm.
that, so are they branded?
I believe we do have some branded ones, yeah.
Okay, so you walk into the office with the branded one
Uh-huh.
and you take some half pans or even shallow half pans and you put the marketing materials in the pan
Mhm.
and then you put your sticker on the outside and said, "Hey, I brought you some barbecue." And then they think they're getting a pan of barbecue and then you have a leave behind, right? It's all in there and you can
Yeah.
put some coupons for the team and stuff and you definitely get some attention with that.
Yeah, it's a great idea. Talking about sparking inspiration. I can see that happening and working. But yeah, as far as like a cool story, that would be something I would tell you.
Yeah.
You walk into these offices where folks are going about their day and they get excited. They smell the barbecue, and it's a moment to laugh. You can interact with them and say, "Hey, we're not quite there. We're almost there, and here's how we get there." So yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, you have to be memorable, right?
right.
And then once you get that opportunity, you really have to be memorable and good, right?
Uh-huh.
You're not going to get a second chance.
Sure.
Any other cool marketing promotions or catering sales strategies?
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of things through the years. I think, from it sounds like, boring email marketing, but we've had some fun with email marketing things as well, and putting in just little fun nuggets of things about the brand, developing the story of the pigs, our logos, and playing around with that, that actually have resulted in some sales and making the guests sort of interact with those to a degree and understanding you were talking about the bass player thing, kind of their personalities of the two pigs that have always been our logos. So
Do they have names?
they do. So the outgoing singer type personality that you were talking about earlier is Red Hot, and he's an aggressive guy, like spicy barbecue loud music. The other one is Blue, and Blue's a chill guy. He's gonna play an acoustic guitar and kind of lay back and just watch everybody else around him get excited while he stays really really laid back and maybe like sweet barbecue instead of the spicy stuff.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was the name.
Yep.
See, I'm learning something.
Yep.
Okay, so do you know a guy named Dan Kennedy, marketing guy? Do you know
I
the
don't
name?
believe so.
Okay, so he was I think I came across him a long time ago. Very smart, very creative, and he had this marketing campaign. He called it Something the Mouse. And basically, he would send out a direct mail letter and it would have a picture of the mouse in the top right corner of the letter, and it was all lowercase, and it would say something like, "Hey, my name's Fievel the Mouse. I work in Dan Kennedy's office behind his file cabinets, and he thinks he knows everything about marketing. And well, he was sleeping. I jumped up on the keyboard, and I decided I could write a better sales letter than he could. And it's all in lowercase,
Mhm.
right?"
Right.
And you say, "Yeah, I had to jump from key to key or whatever."
Right.
And then it's kitschy and it's cute, right? And you could probably do a 2 email campaign where Red Hot, that pig is on the email, right? And it's all lowercase. Like, "Hey, what do pigs have? They don't have paw. What do they have? Hooves.
Hooves,
No, they
yeah,
don't have
hoof.
whatever they're called, pig feet. They
Mhm.
got feet. Hey, I can't reach the shift key on the computer and our fancy head of marketing, George, thinks he knows everything about getting people in the door or booking holiday caterings. And, I'm going to teach him. I got a red hot offer, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to do this, this, and this. And then, a week later, hey, you probably got something from my crazy brother, red hot. I'm blue. I'm more chill. And if you don't respond to that, hey, no pressure. I'd love for you to come in. And it gets people, it gets their attention, right? It's just, and I've
Developing
got
the
somebody
voice of the brand. Yeah.
developing the voice and doing it all lowercase because a pig can't hit the shift key, right?
Right.
So something to think about. I've got somebody who's doing something in Parks and Recreation, and she's got a dog, and they're doing some fundraiser for Halloween thing for the city.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, your dog's sort of the mascot of Parks and Recreation. Why don't you have the pitch letter come from the dog? And it's all lowercase. It's like, hey, when my owner was asleep, she's worried about how are we going to raise enough money for, the Halloween for the kids. And, I told her, I said, I would handle, I decided I would take it upon myself. So it gets a chuckle and,
Yeah.
what have you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of really creative things. Why do you think, when you look at catering sales, because, there's every chain says they cater, right?
Mhm.
Why do you think some brands invest in, the catering sales team and the outreach, and other teams, it's almost like, I don't know if they're scared or they're cheap, or because the impact, if you're in the barbecue business and you're even halfway successful, the impact that it has on sales, profit, and then the marketing effect of feeding all these people your food that you could never do without the catering. Why do you think some of these other brands are like, I use the word, they're half pregnant, like they don't commit to the pregnancy. They half-ass it.
Yep, I'm familiar. And my best guess, Michael, is blinders. So, either this person is an owner operator who's in the restaurant every day, and that's their focus, is keeping everyone happy. And, if I start going outside of my comfort zone, this is the unknown. I know if I keep my dining room clean and I keep my drinks full and tables clear, my food's good. I know they're going to be happy. So I think in short, it's probably the unknown. And from a, more of your C-suite level, I think it's not having folks that are on the leadership team that are really bought into off-premise and understanding it, understanding the impact of it. And then lastly, there's the conversation about channel segmentation. So, what a lot of brands call catering, and what a guest calls catering can be vastly different things. So
Sure.
understanding where to set those parameters, for some of the folks that you're mentioning that really don't invest, they may not realize they already have a catering program ready to be nurtured. It just needs the right ingredients to help it grow.
Yeah. And it's a shame because you'll spend all this money on equipment and POS and
Mhm.
signage and everything. And it's like, man, just a little bit more invested in catering, you're going to get way better returns.
Uh-huh.
So I'm looking, I rarely read my questions, but I did see something that you bought a tiny home in the Blue Ridge Mountains.
Yes.
So tell me about that. How far is that from where you live?
Yeah. So I've worked remote for Red Hot and Blue for a very long time. I do travel a bit. I go to the areas where the stores are. My home is about 30 minutes from my office where I'm at now, and I'm in the big city of Mount Airy, North Carolina, which is everyone knows as Mayberry. You walk out on the main street outside my office, and there's the Barney Fife car and Andy and all that stuff. My home is actually about 30 minutes from here on the Blue Ridge Plateau, and I
So
got
do you have two houses? You have like one in the city and one up in the
no. This is my
mountains?
small office that I work from. I mean, I can work from home as well. Starlink, you can connect anywhere. But
But you're leaving full time in the mountain. That's
Mhm.
your full time home.
Yes, yeah.
That's cool. What does that do for you? I mean, I live at the beach part time. What
Right.
does that do to your headspace being able to work from a mountain home versus, living in suburbia or working in a condo or apartment or whatever?
Yeah, to me, I think that I have a strong connection with nature. So if I'm sitting in nature and I'm able to look around and it helps calm, a lot of times it will help to open up the gates for inspiration. It helps manage and reduce stress levels. And I really think I think that it helps my thought process, be a bit more concise, a bit more creative. And certainly, it doesn't suck to look out the door and see nature and, the Blue Ridge Mountains and be surrounded by it. So,
I think we all get in this rut, right? Like I grew up, I was telling someone the other day, we had one vacation a year. We get in the car and go down to Florida for a week, and then my parents bust their ass for another 51 weeks to get
right.
us there. And even if Nashville has a state park called Radnor Lake. It's in the middle of Nashville. It's got a beautiful lake. It's an hour loop around the lake. Even though I have to spend 30 minutes in the car to get there, it's better than walking an hour in my neighborhood because I could be up in North Carolina. You can't tell the difference. I mean, it's not elevation, but it's gorgeous and it's wooded, and I've seen bald eagles and deer and stuff. And I think breaking the monotony of our lives
Mhm.
to think a little bit differently, look a little bit differently. You can't I don't know how you put even if you don't have a mountain getaway, where can you get away, even if it's a weekend, a month, or, hey, Saturday morning, I'm going to go hiking over here. And it doesn't even have to be a difficult hike. Just go walk around a lake or,
Mhm.
damn, some golf courses are worth just walking around, just so you're not, your brain can rewire a little bit different. I think we get into this myopic life of ours, and you just need a little bit of a reset, a little change of pace.
Exactly. And that grounding, as I would call it, it helps impart a bit of humility for me that, hey, I'm really part of something a lot bigger. And it just helps my flow is what I would say, how I think about things, how I manage my day.
Yeah, I can't, I go to the beach, I go to Costa Rica, and it's just very, I don't know, I just feel very blessed that I'm not just 50 weeks out of the year looking at the same four walls, doing the same things. I think it definitely helps think outside the box, and
Uh-huh.
it puts you in a better mood, right? That you can have a little reset. Like, even if it's just Sunday morning, what can you do to get some kind of reset outside of what you normally do?
Right.
So that's cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. North Carolina's got some gorgeous, gorgeous mountains.
Yeah, it's a beautiful part of the country, and I'm still getting the lay of the land. I'm learning what's growing around me. I found out that this first year that August is the time for golden chanterelles, which
Oh,
is
mushrooms.
oh, the golden chanterelles are delicious. So we've transitioned from golden chanterelles to autumn olives now, which are sort of like a little, kind of like a cranberry. They're an invasive, but
Yeah.
jams and jellies. It's fun. With my past life being fine dining, there's no shortage of things to keep me entertained in that realm on my
I
downtime.
mean, hey, send me a damn basket of chanterelles. I'll go to
You got
town
it. Yeah, yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
That's cool. Anything else you want to share before we sort of wrap up?
Yeah, I just wanted to just reiterate that early on with Red Hot and Blue, the brand had been around for, 30 years at that point. I think that you have to build the engine to grow sales. And the engine for growing sales, as you said, sometimes is that investment. The investment piece for us of getting the technology in place that we needed to organize ourselves from a production standpoint, from a CRM and marketing standpoint, really helped us turn the corner. I mean, we saw 30% sales growth year over year. We're able to really look at and reap the benefits of making those investments. So, to those folks that have the blinders on, they're really missing the mark on what's possible when you're growing catering.
Yeah. And I think what I love about catering, you're not relying on the four walls, right?
Right.
If you just have a dining room, they build something in front of your shopping center, you're screwed. At least with catering, you can get out and go after it, right?
Yep.
So I love that. Anyway, George, it was great talking with you, and I appreciate your time today. I hope you have a great rest of your day.
All right. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me
Thanks,
today.
man.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Bye.
You've been listening to Restaurant Catering Smarts. For more insights and episodes, make sure to follow along, subscribe, and share at caterzen.com.